Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unlocking something absolutely crucial, the absolute most efficient way to acquire new skills. You know, if you look back through history, humanity's evolutionary drive has always depended on our ability to learn. Whether it was discovering more effective ways to hunt or figuring out how to craft better tools, learning quickly and adapting has literally been our species' ticket to survival. Learning is deeply hardwired into exactly who we are. But surprisingly, even though it's totally natural, most of us still haven't actually learned how to learn. Okay, let's dive into this because this question right here is what this is all about. What if you could absorb information and master skills so rapidly that you completely lap your competition? Imagine picking up an instrument, learning a brand new language, or mastering how to code and leaving your friends completely bewildered by how quickly you're progressing. It feels like a superpower, right? But it's actually just a framework. And today we're breaking down a highly effective blueprint from practical psychology that's going to teach you exactly how to do this.
Phase 1. Preparation. The 80-20 advantage.
So the biggest mistake you can make when trying to learn a new skill is just blindly diving right into the deep end. Before you spend a single minute practicing, you've got to take a step back and deconstruct the skill you're trying to acquire. You need an advantage. And that brings us to the Pareto principle. Developed by Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto, it states that 80% of your desired outputs will come from only 20% of your inputs. Think about your life right now for a second. You'll likely find that 20% of the people in your life bring you 80% of your happiness. In business, 20% of customers drive 80% of sales. When it comes to learning something new, it usually feels like there's this massive mountain of information we don't know, which makes it super tempting to just jump around randomly from topic to topic. But honestly, doing that just leads to incredibly wasted time. You absolutely need targeted learning to actually move the needle.
And this brilliantly illustrates the trap. A huge 80% chunk of wasted effort is exactly where most beginners end up living. Instead of drowning in all that noise, your goal during the preparation phase is to identify the crucial 20%, those vital learning methods that are going to yield 80% of your actual results. You want to figure out the one or two core things that matter most and aggressively devote your time to practicing just those things.
Let's ground this with a real-world example, all right? Say you want to learn to play the acoustic guitar. The complex, overwhelming bad habit is trying to learn every single strumming pattern, memorizing every single note on the fretboard, and practicing advanced hammer-on and pull-off techniques right out of the gate. It's just way too much. The smart, targeted approach, your 20%, is simply mastering basic chords and the transitions between them. Why? Well, because mastering those basic chords in 20% of the time will give you 80% of the result you actually want, being able to just play the songs you want to play.
Phase 2. Execution, focus, and immersion.
Listen, here is the modern problem we all face. To learn quickly, you absolutely must commit your full focus and attention to the practice. But let's be real, thanks to our incredibly short attention spans and devices constantly buzzing, beeping, and demanding our attention, pure focus is tough. To combat those distractions, you need a system, and the Pomodoro technique is honestly one of the best. It's incredibly straightforward. Step 1, you shut down all external distractions. Close the tabs, literally put the phone in another room, and fully focus on your task for a short sprint, usually 20 to 25 minutes. Step 2, you take a mandatory short break of 1 to 5 minutes. Consider this specific anecdote from the source material. A learner taught themselves coding completely from scratch in just 4 months. How? Their daily schedule was 12 Pomodoro sessions a day. Just 25 minutes of intense focus, followed by 5 minutes of rest, repeating that cycle, and taking a slightly longer break every 4 sessions.
The reason that highly structured Pomodoro technique works is summed up beautifully. Our brain is more receptive to new information when we're focused. I know, it sounds like absolute common sense, right? But the biological reality behind it is profound. When you strip away the multitasking and all that environmental noise, your brain is literally able to dedicate its resources to wiring deeper, stronger neurological connections.
Now, what's really fascinating is how retention rates should entirely dictate what you do during those focus sessions. Research shows we only retain about 10% of what we read from a textbook. We retain roughly 50% when we see a demonstration. But get this, we retain up to 90% of what we learn when we use it immediately. Immersion is by far the greatest teacher. Think about how you learned to ride a bicycle or swim. You didn't sit down and read a manual. You got on the bike, you fell off, you got your hands dirty, and you gained experience by making mistakes. Active practice destroys passive reading every single time.
Phase 3. The struggle. Surviving the dip. Okay, no matter how great your focus or how immersive your practice is, you are going to hit a wall. Think back to a time you tried to learn something, felt entirely frustrated, and ultimately just walked away. You are definitely not alone in that feeling. Best-selling author Seth Godin has a brilliant framework for this. He notes that while it's important to know when a pursuit isn't right for you, the real tragedy is that many potential winners don't reach success because they quit before the dip. See, we tend to view our loss of motivation as a personal flaw, like a lack of talent. But Godin suggests we need to completely reframe this. That loss of motivation isn't a sign that you aren't good enough, it's a highly predictable psychological hurdle that literally everyone faces on the road to mastery.
According to Godin, there are 5 incredibly common reasons we fail to follow through and end up quitting. We run out of time, we run out of money, we get scared of the difficulty, we realize we weren't actually serious about it in the first place, or we simply lose interest. Understanding these 5 super common reasons is really meant to normalize the struggle for you. When you feel that powerful urge to quit, you're likely just experiencing one of these highly predictable roadblocks.
Psychologists call this whole journey the transition cycle, and mapping it out changes everything. Point 1 is the honeymoon phase. This is when everything is new, you're experiencing a huge rush of dopamine because humans are hardwired to love novelty, and learning just feels fantastic. But then the novelty wears off and you hit point 2, the dip. Progress plateaus, the dopamine crashes, and this is the exact moment most people abandon the skill. But look at what comes after. Point 3 is mastery. If you can predict that the dip is coming, it is so much easier to fight through it. You can look at your frustration and just say, oh, this is just the dip, it's temporary.
Phase 4, recovery. Sleep to succeed.
All right, this is where you actually step entirely away from the work. You put down the tools and you let your biology take over the heavy lifting. It turns out that being awake is actually terrible for retaining what you just learned. Throughout your day, you're constantly bombarded with new stimuli, and all of that noise actively prevents your new memories from consolidating. In fact, a fascinating study from a German research lab found that sleep helps our memory formation most if we know we're going to need that specific information later. So, setting an intention to remember a skill right before your head hits the pillow, that has real, proven scientific weight.
So the crucial point is brain plasticity theory. Many scientists believe that the human brain actually alters its own structure and organization specifically when we're asleep. Think about that for a second. Without adequate, quality sleep, your brain is physically denied the opportunity to review, absorb, and literally rewire itself to accommodate the new skill you've been practicing. If you want to learn faster, sleep is absolutely not a luxury. It's a structural requirement for your brain to consolidate memories and reduce your future mistakes.
Let's bring this whole shebang together. First, use the Pareto principle to deconstruct the skill and focus heavily on the vital 20%. Second, shut out all distractions and use Pomodoro sessions for intense, sprint-like focus. Third, don't just read about it, immerse yourself and learn by actually doing. Fourth, anticipate the dip and push through that inevitable plateau. And finally, get the sleep your brain desperately needs to rewire itself. You now possess a structured, completely proven framework to accelerate your learning. The only question left is, now that you have the blueprint, what will you learn first? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and I really hope you take this framework and use it to master something incredible.